Are you longing to feel connected and not so alone? Longing to be happy and more alive? Badass Counseling is excited to announce the creation of Community Plus, a subscription-based private group of folks just wanting to more closely share their soul journey together with like-minded folks and with me, Sven. For a monthly fee, you'll get bi-monthly live Q&As with me, Sven, giving you a better chance of getting your own questions answered. A private community feed for you to post pictures, successes, struggles, joys, even the occasional cat picture, creating greater connection and help for healing and growth. Random drawings for free small group sessions and drawings for private coaching sessions with me. Priority access to becoming a guest on the Badass Counseling Show podcast. Unlimited access to my DIY video courses, Healing the Soul and Unleashing Your Greatness. And so much more. Community Plus is for people serious about their soul journey who want real growth, real help, real laughter, real connection, and true community. Join us now at badasscounseling.com.
From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Hello, world. It's good to have you here today. This is the Badass Counseling Show, as that lady just said in the intro. And my name is Sven Erlandson. I am the host of this fine show. Whether you are tuning in from Stockholm or Seattle, Chisago Lakes, Minnesota, or Chicago, Denver to Dublin, Toronto to Tokyo, it is great to have you here with us. We love our badass listeners around the world. I am joined in studio by my team, KC, the letter K, the letter C. Don't ever call her Casey. She doesn't like that. Over in the booth, and I've got Rob the Rocket next to me. Roberto, what say ye?
I'm fine. Everybody, everywhere, everything is with us. So we're ready to rock and roll, my friend.
Yeah, well, that said, tell me about Becker.
All right. I would be delighted to. Becker wrote in and said, I have struggled with anger my entire life and have been through counseling and psychiatry for years. After my mother passed away in 2006, this anger caused me to spiral into polysubstance abuse and addiction to alcohol. During this time, I realized how big of a disappointment I was to my father, but I should have known much earlier. In hindsight, I've never been good enough at anything for him. I'm not so concerned with that now, but that feeling of never being good enough seeps into every aspect of my life, like as a husband and father, as an employee, as a friend, and so on. I beat myself up when I let my anger out, which is more frequently than I would like, and then I'm disappointed and mad at myself. My fuse is short, and it's a never-ending cycle. I am concerned that I am unintentionally sending the same messages to my children because they see me angry so often. I want them to know that I am here for them and love them more than anything, and I'm afraid they just see me as this angry monster who has no patience and yells all the time. I have tried different approaches to end the cycle, but nothing seems to work. This is my plea for assistance in moving toward being the father that I want to be and finally put this angry monster to bed.
Becker, great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You betcha. You worry that your kids see you as an angry monster and that just this person that's always angry or mostly angry, they do.
Yeah.
That is how they see you. They also see you as the man that they love so much, and all they want to do is play with you, hug you, and eat Fruit Loops with you, and go on car rides with you. That's all they want. But you're right. They are probably at this point scared of you and walking on eggshells. And just out of curiosity, at the thought of that, you've already had that thought before, but at the thought of that, what is the biggest feeling that makes you feel? Give me a feeling word.
Afraid.
Afraid of what?
Afraid that they're going to not want anything to do with me.
Yeah. And if they don't want anything to do with you, first of all, how old are your children?
I have a 13-year-old daughter, a 6-year-old son, and a 2-year-old son.
13, 6, and 2. And you're afraid they're going to not want anything to do with you when?
I'm afraid it's starting with my daughter already. And then with the boys, I'm afraid it's going to happen sooner than later.
Yeah. And here's the thing about that anger at the parent. What a lot of people will do, and there's a lot of that going around. People say, oh, all these fucking kids doing it nowadays, they're all just distancing from their parents. Yeah, but I actually see it mostly in my clients who are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. It's not just the teens and 20-somethings. Okay. But here's part of what it is underneath the anger is the longing. I had a client yesterday in his late 50s and still angry at his dad, still angry at his mom, and yet he's saying, I really want to confront them. And I said, why do you want to confront them? Is it because you just want to get it out? He's like, no, I guess I hope that they'll, apologize and they'll acknowledge what they did. I said, oh, you want something from them. You want the acknowledgement. And he said, yeah, of course. And I want the apology. And I said, why? He says, well, then we can have a normal relationship. I said, so you still want that. You still want the love. You still want the relationship. So underneath all of that growing anger and hurt in your 13-year-old, deep underneath it, more than anything else, is the longing to be loved by her daddy, is the longing for her father to say, I am so fucking sorry. And that is not going to happen again. If it does, it'll be an accident. I swear to God, I'm going to own it. But that's what she wants. She wants that connection. And right now the anger is coming in part because she's got her hormones coming in. She's 13, 13-year-old girl, 14-year-old girl, totally normal. 13-year-old boy, totally normal. Even if you had the best fucking parents in the world, right? But let me ask you this then, going a little deeper. Was your old man an angry guy?
I don't know if I would call him an angry guy. He definitely raised his voice a lot. I don't know whether it was because he was just angry at it, something he was dealing with, or it was because I wasn't listening, or
but what I'm wondering, I guess what I'm wondering more is, what was his vibe? Angry, regardless of who he was angry at. Did you feel an anger vibe coming off him, or did you, or what? How would you describe the vibe coming off of Dad? How would you describe Dad?
We didn't have a great relationship. Mom was definitely a mama's boy. So we didn't have a great relationship to begin with. But Dad's vibe was, I didn't want to make Dad angry. Like, I didn't want to make him mad because I didn't like the result when that happened.
So you you were living in fear growing up then, is that correct, of your father?
Yeah, you could say that. I don't know if it's as intense as some others, but yeah, I would say that there's some sort of fear that I would make him upset.
Fair enough. But you mentioned quite a bit in your write-up that basically Dad was critical of you, right?
Not so directly, but like in hindsight, looking back at it, yes.
I've never been good enough at anything for him. Never, you said. But I'm not so concerned about that now. I realized how big of a disappointment I was to my father. How was that conveyed? I mean, if it's that big, it had to have been conveyed in a strong way, and that doesn't necessarily mean it was spoken. How was it conveyed?
Probably through the being yelled at, through being told that, my schoolwork wasn't good enough. I didn't have the grades that he wanted me to have. I didn't put in the work that he wanted me to put in. I had to have someone follow me around during middle school to sign off on my assignments and have this paper follow me that had all my teachers track everything I was doing. Same thing in high school. He had me take my class planner around and I had to have my teachers sign off that I wrote down the right thing in it.
Were you a sad kid? Were you a sad kid like in elementary school, or were you a happy kid? Did you love school?
I was a happy kid in elementary school. I liked going to school when I was in elementary school. It started being middle school. I got made fun of every day in middle school, and I started not liking going to school at that point.
And when you start disliking going to school, does that make school work harder?
Yes.
Yeah, of course it does. And I was bullied in junior high and so forth. What were you bullied for?
Being short, being dumb. Like, people would say that I was stupid. But I was real short until about my junior year of high school is when I kind of hit my growth spurt. So I got teased about my size for a long time.
I'm sorry to hear that. And what's if you were to sum up the messages that you got from your dad about you, whether they were explicit with his words or some other way, what were the main messages you got from your dad about you? And try to put it into kid language. Try to put it into an 8-year-old's language. What really was your dad's message to you about you?
Do better.
Okay. And was the message? And that's what he wants you to do. That's a good start. What was his message about who you are?
It's not enough.
Right. And that's still about what you're doing.
I need more. I need more out of you.
Okay. And so then let me ask you this. That's good. That's good. Now let me ask you this. What did that 8-year-old child then, with dad constantly saying that? Okay. And it sounds like really from the beginning, maybe not, but we'll get to that in a second. But what was the thing then that you believed about yourself? You're constantly hearing this message. What is it that you believed about yourself?
That I was a bad kid, that I didn't listen, that it was always the children should be seen and not heard kind of thing. And so me having ADHD and being loud and all over the place was not vibing well with that rule.
Okay. And let me ask you this. If you were to be seen and not heard, okay, and you were being loud and all over the place, if you were to think about that 6 or 8-year-old, that 8-year-old boy being loud and all over the place, yes, there's the ADHD. Okay, fine. But let me ask you this. What do you think the 8-year-old boy hoped to get out of being loud and rambunctious and so forth?
Some positive attention, time with my dad.
Nailed it. Positive attention, time with dad. Right. And what's fascinating is you said the message you got is you're to be seen and not heard. In other words, and maybe even, I don't even want to fucking see it. In other words, just be non-existent. And the child that is expected to be non-existent is the one that is definitely feeling unseen. And like, I don't matter. Would that be a reasonable thing? Do you think that sort of fits with what you felt about yourself back then?
Yeah.
Right. So then you being loud and rambunctious and so forth is you trying to get positive attention. Exactly. That you weren't getting. And then, so you're getting the vibe at home from dad that you're, basically, whether it's not wanted or just not wanted to be seen, and also that you're bad because you're a fucking disappointment. And then you compound that with junior high, middle school, where you're getting the message from your peers that basically you suck, because you're too short or you're stupid or whatever. Then what do you think that kid's self-esteem level is?
Oh, it dropped. Exactly.
And so the polysubstance abuse and addiction to alcohol, you said that started after your mom died in 06. So that was almost 20 years ago. So let's say 18, 19 years ago. How old are you right now, Becker?
I'm 38.
You're 38. So mom basically died when you were 20, right? Ish?
Yep. Okay. 19 and a half.
19 and a half. Okay. First of all, just out of curiosity, how did she die?
She had cancer.
No, I'm sorry. What kind of cancer?
Vulvar cancer.
Really interesting. I've honestly never even heard of that.
No. Okay. Yeah, it's one that a lot of people haven't heard of.
I suppose. And so then she was there through junior high and through high school. And what would you say was the fundamental message you got from your mother about you?
Oh, my mom was always there for me.
What was the message?
Friend.
What was the message?
The message was,
in one sentence or less.
The message was that I mattered to her.
I mattered to her. Okay. And one more question, just out of curiosity. Power and in any sort of relationship, whether it's my relationship with my son or my relationship with my lover or relationship in any situation, there are power imbalances or power distributions in any relationship. And that can be influenced by a million things, fear of this person leaving me, or the power that, gosh, I'm so in love with your body, or you have the money, or I'm afraid of, or you're afraid of my in-laws, or, whatever it is, or my parents, or whatever, all sorts of forms of power that affect, and fear that affect power in a relationship. What would you say are the percentages of the power distribution in your mother's and father's relationship? Who had what percent of the power? Was it 20-80 or 10-90?
I'd say 70-30. Dad.
Dad had 70% of the power. All right. And what fundamentally was the power that your dad had over your mom? What was she afraid of?
I don't think she was afraid of anything with my dad, at least nothing that I witnessed or that I had been concerned with at the time. Like, they had a good relationship.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, when Dad was yelling at you or telling you how your school's not good enough and so forth, what would your mom do?
She would try to show the united front, but at the same
Wait,
time,
united
she
with
was
whom? United
with
with
Dad.
him? Oh, I see.
with Dad.
So she agreed with you then that you were a shit student.
She also took me aside afterwards and would try to help me with my assignments.
And when
Yeah,
she
she
took
would-
you aside afterwards, what would she say about your dad's yelling at you and telling you you weren't good enough? What would she say? Or, what would she say?
I don't remember off the top of my head. It would
Speculate.
be
Do your best. What was the vibe you would get off of Mom after Dad would yell or tell you how inadequate you were?
that she was sorry that he was yelling at me, and that
Yeah. Do you see the problem there?
yeah,
What's the problem?
it's not the united front that they wanted it to appear. It was, Mom was there to support me. Dad was not supporting.
But no, that's not the real problem. I mean, yes, that's the real problem is that mom is coming after the fact and saying, gee, I'm sorry, Dad did that. So she's acknowledging how your dad was treating you was wrong. So she knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
The problem is that she wasn't standing up and defending you when he's doing that shit, even though she knew it was wrong. Do you see the problem with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And let me ask you, what do you wish she would have done?
I wish she would have stepped in a little bit sooner, so that it didn't happen.
Right. And let me ask you, why do you think she didn't?
I feel like she probably just didn't want to step on his toes.
And what was the fear driving the behavior? Her behavior. What was she afraid of? That if she stood up for her son, who she acknowledges later, hey, this isn't cool what your dad is doing. So she acknowledges that what your dad was doing to you was not okay. So it's bad behavior on his part, but she doesn't stop it. So then I'm left wondering, well, what's the fear driving her behavior? What do you think she was afraid of?
The only thing I can think of is that it would cause problems within the marriage and that they wouldn't be together.
And problems within the marriage. In other words, am I hearing you correctly? Basically, he wouldn't like it. He'd get mad at her, and gee, maybe he'd leave her or something like that.
Possibly. Whether he actually would do that, I don't think would be the case. But yes.
Okay, then what would be the case? What would be the case? Or what was her fear? That he'd yell at her, get mad at her, that sort of thing?
Maybe that she wasn't enough for him.
But what was she afraid of him doing? If she stood up for you, what was she afraid of him doing? If she stood up for you?
Yelling at her.
Exactly.
Maybe?
Exactly. So in other words, what you're fundamentally telling me, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Becker.
No.
I don't mind being wrong, all right? I have no ego invested in this. She was fundamentally staying quiet while you're getting yelled at so that she doesn't get yelled at. So she's pushing you out of the foxhole to eat the bullets in the face and on your body and in your little heart so that she could be safe from eating the bullets. Is that accurate or inaccurate?
I mean, fundamentally, when you put it that way, that sounds kind of harsh, but yeah.
Well, I mean, if I'm wrong, honestly, tweak it if you want, because it sounds like for your entire childhood, you said, I was always a disappointment to my father. I've never been good enough at anything for him. Okay. And you said that Mom acknowledged that it was wrong. She knew it was wrong, and she would come to you after the fact. She'd try to help you, but she also acknowledged that what he was doing was wrong. So this clearly went on for presumably the full 20 years that she was alive of your life, and yet she didn't stop it. And you said she was likely afraid. So there was fear in that power equation between your mom and your dad, and she was not going to stand up and get yelled at by him in order to protect you. So she kept herself safe at the expense of you.
Yeah.
Okay. And let me ask you, which hurt more? Your dad basically bullying you by telling you how you're never good enough, or the boys at school telling you how short and how stupid you were?
The bullying in middle school isn't really, affecting my life nowadays, other than the impact.
So which was worse? Which was worse for you?
My dad.
Right. Exactly. And your mom had the power to stop it, and she chose not to. It sounds like potentially we've just exposed something right there that you hadn't really probably ever thought of. Would that be accurate?
No. Yeah.
Right. What are you feeling right now, Becker?
Sad.
And what's the saddest part?
My mom was my best friend, and I don't want to think about that. That's what it was.
And why don't you want to think about it?
Because I miss her so much every day.
That's right.
Like even 20 years later, it's so hard.
What do you miss the most about mom being gone? What's the single biggest thing in one sentence or less?
I could turn to her for anything, no matter what the situation, and I have no one to turn to.
You're all alone.
Yeah.
Right. And you, of course, you don't want to think about the stuff where mom really, she didn't do her job. And that doesn't change the fact that you love her. I'm not in any way trying to take away that love. But the bottom line is, yeah, you are sad. And I'll be honest, as an outsider, I'm mad at her. I'm mad at her for not protecting a little boy because you had no fucking power, dude. You had zero. And you already told me she had at least 30% power.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she protected herself at the expense of you. So one of the things that you're going to need to do in your own personal healing, and this is going to be a scary, ugly, extremely uncomfortable thing to do, and that is to go into both the sadness and the anger at your mom because you were a little fucking boy. She had more power than you. Whether dad is a big ogre or not, the bottom line is she still had more power than you. Yeah. She still had more power than a 6-year-old little boy. And for you to truly heal and become the better parent that I know you want to be and just the better man and happier, that means the mom stuff is going to come out just as much as the dad stuff. And I'm going to pivot back to the dad stuff in 2 seconds. But first, we're going to take a short break.
You've heard Sven talk a lot about his book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup. And that's because Sven hears from his followers a lot about how much the book has helped them. If you're not sure how to handle the issues getting in the way of a better life, you're not alone. And you have a lot of choices. But thousands of readers will tell you that this is a great place to start, by yourself and at your own pace. So go to badasscounseling.com and order There's a Hole in My Love Cup, and you'll have Sven right there with you as you forge your best future. It's totally badass. So get started today.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
Yes, we are back with Becker. Becker, what was the very earliest that you recall, earliest memory you have of being a disappointment to dad or him expressing something, basically the disappointment or the frustration with you or the anger at you or, whatever it might have been? What's the very earliest memory you have of that?
The earliest specific memory is middle school, having to have someone follow me around, just knowing that my work wasn't good enough.
But I'm asking memory you have of dad.
Yes.
Expressing to you, saying to you, or, God, you're a disappointment. Your grades are shitty. Or even looking at you with a sideways glance or oh God, or anything in any way expressing disappointment. What's the very earliest? Because in your write-up, you say, I've never been good at anything. And, I was a big disappointment to my dad, but basically never. Do you remember anything before middle school? Or did dad undergo some massive character change that all of a sudden when you get into middle school, you're a fucking disappointment? Or did you just never do anything disappointing prior to 13 years old?
I just don't think I can remember specific times, before that. There were times where he would yell at me for, not following his directions.
Okay, and what's the earliest you remember of dad yelling at you for not following his directions?
Probably second or third grade.
Second or third grade. Okay, so then that's...
like 8 or 9.
Yeah, 8 or 9, somewhere in there, that you remember being yelled at for not following his directions. In other words, he was disappointed in you and expressed his upset through yelling. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually, a better example might be first grade. I forgot about this. First grade, I got in trouble with the principal because another student had gotten up and after I had just sharpened my pencil and asked me to do something to their chair, and I just put my pencil down on it. She sat on my chair and it stabbed her, and I got in trouble for a week with the principal. And I don't remember his reaction, but I would assume that would be, a part of that. At 6 years old, it's kind of hard to remember the exact repercussions of the behavior at home. I remember the repercussions at school.
Why do you
but I don't remember them at home.
why do you think there would have been repercussions at home that early? Because you don't have any memories prior, other than that, prior to 8 or 9. Why do you sort of assume there would have been repercussions at home?
Because I got in trouble.
Oh, you did get in trouble. Oh, you mean at school?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm wondering, why is it that you didn't come home and say, "Hey, son, don't worry about it." You just made an honest mistake, and you're being unfairly
Disappointing.
judged.
It's a
Right.
disappointment.
Okay, so you knew. So based on the dad that you knew, basically your whole life, you can sort of assume that even though I don't remember how I was treated at 6 years old, that just makes the most. I probably was yelled at or treated like a disappointment. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're fundamentally saying that basically my whole life I have known myself to be a disappointment to my dad. Okay.
Yeah.
A disappointment. And what's fascinating also in your write-up is that you say it this way. During this time, when you were in your polysubstance abuse in your 20s after mom dies, I realized how big of a disappointment I was to my father, but I should have known much earlier. In other words, because it was there. Okay. In hindsight, I've never been good at anything for him. And listen to your next sentence. And your next sentence is, I'm not so concerned with that now. And I'm really curious, why are you not so concerned with that now?
I've come to terms with the relationship that we have currently. I've come to terms with, if he wants to be a part of my life and a part of my kid's life, that he'll make the effort to do so. Would I like a better relationship with him? Yes, I would. But I would also say that I am of the understanding that, I've made the efforts, I've tried to reach out, and those efforts are not met with reciprocation.
And how does it feel to know that your father doesn't want a relationship with you?
Angering, like frustrating.
Because?
For sure, sad, disappointing, because it's just further feeding that message.
What's the message?
That I'm not enough. Like,
exactly.
What did I do that's not enough?
Exactly. He doesn't want you. And your voice is breaking right now. It's very, very sad. Yeah. Right. You want to know why you're angry all the time, dude? This is it. This is it. And you saying, I'm not so concerned with that right now is the biggest fucking mistake you can make. Well, that and then not assessing your mom's role in this whole thing. But you pretending like this, you're not so concerned. You may have, quote unquote, come to terms with it, but you haven't. I mean, you're crying right now, and there's nothing wrong with crying. I support that. Okay. But the bottom line is it's killing you inside, and you're fucking mad at him. And it's not just that you're mad at him for not mattering now. Deep down, the real pain goes all the way back to at least 6 years old. Likely earlier. He didn't start becoming a dickhead at 6, right? Out of control or angry all the time at 6 or, yelling at you for a little. No, they'd been there likely the whole time. And so that means he's been hurting you your entire life and giving you this message your entire life that you're no good, that you're unwanted, that you're a goddamn disappointment. And what's really fascinating then, and just out of curiosity, you have a 6-year-old right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's call your little 6-year-old, I don't know what's a popular name nowadays. Well, let's call him Ryan. Okay. Let's say little Ryan makes a mistake and bumps the milk jug on the kitchen table that's going in all of the fruity pebbles, and the milk pours onto the table and onto the floor. You are likely to respond with what to little Ryan?
It's okay. Let's get a towel and clean it up.
Really? Because you talk about how you're always fucking angry.
I am, but it takes a little bit to get it to come out.
Okay.
The anger's there, but it takes a little while to get it to come out. I try to reassure him that I'm not mad when that happens. Accidents happen.
Okay.
I understand that. And
well, God bless you for that.
It wasn't that he did it on purpose or anything.
Well, that's good. That's good. I am concerned that I'm unintentionally sending the same messages to my children because they see me angry so often. I want them to know basically that I don't want them to be afraid and just see me as an angry monster who has no patience and yells at the time. Has it occurred to you that all the anger that you have at your dad, and even deeper down, the anger you have at your mom, has it occurred to you that is the anger that's coming out at your kids? Has it occurred to you that if you get out all of this and actually go into and get out all of this pain and anger at dad and mom, that will reduce it all inside, and that you'll be far less likely to spit all that venom out on your kids? Do you see how there might be a correlation between those two things? Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so by you saying I'm not so concerned with that right now, I understand why you're saying it, but it's a mistake. It's a mistake. That needs to be your biggest concern of going into and flushing out. But the bottom line is you still want a relationship with dad. Okay. I guess this is what it is right now, but gee, I wish I could have more, because if I could have a more relationship with dad, what fundamentally is the one biggest thing you would want from that relationship?
Just knowing that I'm enough for him, that I'm doing the right things in his eyes.
Right. Knowing that. Right. And because then if you knew that you were enough for him and you're doing the right thing in his eyes, what would change inside of you? What would you feel about yourself, or how would you feel about life?
I would feel that he sees me. I would feel that I matter, that I'm important.
And so then what would you do with your life? How would you live life differently, just out of curiosity, if at all?
I would try to involve him even more.
But apart from him, what would you do with your life?
I would continue living my life, and I would try to do it with less anger. Like, if I knew and I didn't have all this anger built up that ends up being geared towards me and my kids because of this situation, then I feel like I could live my life in the way that I want to.
Right. And why can't you live your life the way you want to now?
Because I have this fear that in every aspect I'm not good enough.
Exactly. In fact, you said that feeling of never being good enough seeps into every aspect of my life.
Yeah.
As a husband and father, as an employee, as a friend, etc. I beat myself up when I let my anger out, etc. So just out of curiosity, let's just choose the 6-year-old or your 13-year-old girl. When they were 6, when they were 4, do you think they hated themselves?
I don't think that they hated themselves. I heard them say it recently, but not that young.
Okay. When have you ever in your life hated yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
Many times.
Many times. And what would you say was the age when you hated yourself most?
I want to say 14 or 15 when I tried to commit suicide.
And what percent would you say you hated yourself then?
Probably 65, 70 at least.
At least. So if you were to hit it, that's at the least end. What would be the most accurate
75
number?
to 80.
Okay, so pick a number.
80.
All right, 80%. And what percent do you hate yourself now?
60.
And what is the very earliest you recall hating yourself, even a little bit?
Probably 11.
Okay, and what percent would you say you hated yourself at 11 years old?
35.
Okay, so would it be safe to assume that you woke up one day and you hated yourself 35%, or that it had been likely growing prior
It
to
had been
that?
likely growing.
When do you think
probably,
it started growing, would you guess? Where you started just disliking yourself or beating yourself up and hating on yourself. When would you say it likely started?
Probably 8.
8. All right. And then just out of curiosity, as long as we're on the subject, have you ever in your life hated your dad?
Not hated.
Okay.
Incredibly angry at, but never hated.
And why do you think that is? Just out of curiosity.
Because I love him. I mean, yes, I have a reason to hate him, so to speak, but I try to understand at the time that I was the most angry was after he had remarried, after my mom passed away.
Okay.
And
is there anything about your 13-year-old that you hate?
Not that I hate. No.
Okay. What would be the best reason for your 6-year-old in the next couple of years to really start finding himself disgusting and hating himself? What do you think it's going to be?
It's going to be over.
Do you think
not
he should
listening? He's going to say that he's a bad kid.
Okay. And
It's going to be the same thing that I felt.
And does a child naturally think that they're...
No.
Well, then why would he hate himself just because he sometimes doesn't listen?
Because that's when my anger comes out.
I see. So it would be your actions that cause him to hate
Yes.
himself. I see. Okay. So then if I'm hearing you correctly, when you were 14 and hated yourself 80%, and when you were 11 years old and hated yourself 35%, and when it started at 8 years old, you hating yourself, was that because you just naturally hated yourself? You came out of the womb saying, hey, I fucking suck. Fuck.
No.
No. You hated yourself because why?
Because of the messages I was receiving.
That's it, from dad. And mom was confirming it by not standing up for you. Deep down, her love still felt good. But as long as she wasn't as bad as him, she looks like the nice parent. She looks all fucking namaste kumbaya shit because, hey, afterwards, she's sort of licking your wounds for you, but she's not standing up for you. Okay, but the problem is this. So you were conditioned to hate yourself. You've just told me that your 6-year-old, your 13-year-old, there's nothing they could do to fucking justify them hating themselves. It would be me conditioning them to hate themselves. Okay, so then what you're saying is you were conditioned by your dad, and you correct me if I'm wrong. I mean it. All right? I don't mind being wrong.
Yeah.
You were conditioned by your dad to hate yourself at least as early as 8 years old. Is that accurate or inaccurate?
Yeah.
And yet, in your entire life, you have never hated your dad. So the very person who conditioned you to hate yourself, you don't have any sort of hatred towards.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
It's powerful. I have a lot of reasons to hate him.
Well, do you have reasons to hate yourself? Did that
No.
6-year-old, did that 8-year-old, did that 14-year-old, did that 20-year-old have reasons to hate himself?
No.
No. So you have reasons to hate dad, but you didn't have reasons to hate yourself. And yet, back then, you did hate yourself, and you still hate yourself, but you've never hated dad. And I asked you why, and you said, because I love him, which means you hating yourself says you don't love you. And who conditioned you to not love you?
Hate it.
Thank you. And mom didn't stop him. Now, just out of curiosity, what percent was your dad a good parent and what percent was your dad a bad parent?
Probably a 65-35 split.
What percent is the good?
We'll go 60-40, actually. We'll say 60 bad, 40 good.
Okay. And mom, what percent was she a good parent? What percent was she a bad parent?
I'd say 80-20 good.
Okay. 80% good, 20% bad. And so they taught you to hate yourself, and you have been hating yourself ever since, even up to this day, 60% to this day. And you hated yourself so much in middle school that you wanted to fucking kill yourself. And yet you don't have any sort of feelings of hatred towards him. And I'm not saying hatred as a permanent state.
Yeah.
I'm not saying hatred and now I'm going to go, key his car and, do violence towards him or his property. I'm just talking about the natural feeling. If somebody were to walk up and...
If it's being phrased that way, yes, I do have hatred towards him.
And yet, isn't it interesting, even when I didn't phrase it that way, you still had hatred for yourself and you didn't have hatred for dad. So you draw a clear distinction between you and dad. What do you think is the real reason you didn't want to say you hate your dad before? You said because I love him, but...
Because I don't want to admit that.
Why don't you want to admit that you hate your dad?
Because he provided a home for me as a child. Yes, he sent me these messages, but he did take care of me as a child. I have hope that our relationship will get better.
Well, wait a minute. You just said two different things. You just said, I don't want to hate him because, he put a roof over our head and put food on the table, which is, I hear, important. But then you said, but I hope for a relationship with him later. What the hell does that have to do with hating him or not?
I hope...
Is it that you believe that if I allow myself to feel the hatred, then I can never have a relationship? It might somehow jeopardize a relationship with him in the future. And how would it jeopardize a relationship with him in the future if you don't tell him that you hate him? I mean, if you just went into it and you flushed it out and you wrote him letters that you don't send and you journaled about it, maybe talk with your therapist about it, talk with me about it, how does that affect your relationship with dad? Do you fear somehow it would be out there in the universe and somehow he'd feel it and then wouldn't want you, or what's the fear?
I feel like it would manifest deeper feelings and that it would make it so that, you were right. I would feel like it would mean that I couldn't have a relationship with him because of the strong feelings that I have.
So, so two things. One, it would manifest deeper feelings. What deeper feelings do you think you have?
The deeper feelings of hatred would come out more.
Right.
And that it would lead to not having a relationship at all with him, which I don't want.
And you can't bear that thought. So I am going to stuff down my real feelings in hopes that I can get him back, because the reason you need him back is because he's the only person you believe who can confirm your worth. He is the only person that can set you free from your self-hatred. Is that correct?
Yes.
Exactly. So you are going to deny and stuff down all the deep, real feelings, and you wonder why the fuck you're an angry monster. It's because you are trying to keep a vault door shut that you can't fucking keep shut.
Yeah.
And inside that vault is all the rage, all the hatred, all the anger, and all the hurt and all that sadness of that 5-year-old, that 9-year-old, that 19-year-old, that 29-year-old boy. All of it is in there, and it's squirting out on the people you least want to hate. So fundamentally, and we're talking about your chitlins, all right? We are talking about your wife, your girlfriend, whatever it is. Oh, wife.
Yeah.
That you're hurting those people because of anger, rage deep down at your dad that's in that vault, that's squirting out under the door of the vault and squirting out through the air ducts of the vault. It's getting out, and it's spilling out on the people you love the most. It's not spilling out on dad, the one person who fucking put it there. No, it's spilling out on the people you claim to love. So you are fundamentally protecting dad at the expense of your kids and your wife. Huh. What do you think of that?
Makes me feel like a piece of shit.
You're not a piece of shit. All right? I mean, you've been conditioned to think that. It doesn't surprise me.
But that's what it is. That's what it feels.
But it's
that's
not.
the first
Dad
thought
was
that comes.
of course, and that's good. And I'm glad you did that. Dad's the fucking piece of shit that fucking put that there in the first place, but you don't want to look at that. And do you want to know how you actually heal from the wound dad caused? Do you want to know how you actually heal from believing you're a disappointment? You want to know how you actually stop being the angry monster at your family? For the first time in your life, you look at the whole equation as a man and no longer as a little boy. And what that means is you just put all the truth on the table. And you don't ever have to confront your dad, ever. I don't need you to confront your dad in order for me to heal you. I don't need you to do that. You can have whatever fucking relationship with him you want. I don't care. That has nothing to do with your healing. What we do have to do, though, is we have to bring everything out and put it on the table. For the first time in your life, just look at the truth. What really is the truth? The truth is, I'm fucking angry, and I am so fucking hurt, and you fucking piece of shit. You did that to a little boy, Dad. You did it to a little boy. You motherfucker. What the fuck? Couldn't control your fucking anger? Didn't think about, I don't know, maybe I'll go get a fucking therapist. Because guess what, kid? Therapists have been around for a long fucking time, and if you were born in basically the fucking 80s, if you were born in roughly 86, 87, therapists been around. My parents did that. They counseled people since the 50s, all right? It's been around a long fucking time. But your dad didn't. And instead, it was easier to instill in you that self-hatred, and that's what's running your entire life. His hatred for you, he taught you to hate yourself, and yet you refuse to let out your hatred towards him. And the way you set yourself free is by fundamentally this, by you giving voice to those feelings in your journaling and in writing letters you don't send. You are fundamentally saying my voice matters. That is you affirming you. You are fundamentally saying what was done to me was wrong and it's fucked up and I'm going to get it the fuck out of my system. You are confirming your worth. You're saying I matter. God damn it, I matter. And that's how you heal yourself. So you think dad's the only one that can do that for you. And that's why he has so much power over you. He owns you. You're his bitch, basically, because he has what you want. And that is confirmation of worth. And you believe your life can't even start until you get it from that one person. You're locked in a jail cell, and that motherfucker is the only person that has a key. And it's bullshit. The way you have the key's been in your pocket the whole time, is you going back and letting out all those feelings. That's saying to that 6-year-old boy, that 8-year-old boy, that 13-year-old boy, let's get all those feelings out. Because all those feelings that you had and that you have locked inside of you towards mom, towards dad, towards the bullies, all of those feelings were your authentic responses. What was done to you was not your fault. What was done to you was not you, but your responses, the sadness, the anger, the rage, the disappointment, the betrayal, all of that, that's authentic you. That's your natural responses. So when you start getting that out, you are affirming that child's natural responses and you are setting free. You're finally getting it out of you. And it doesn't have to affect whether you have a relationship with dad or not. But by you getting it out of you, you're saying, God damn it, I matter. And here's the thing. You may have heard me say this before, but you allowing your anger. Anger is fundamentally, well, it's me saying no. When a child or when a country or when a people or when a family or when children or whatever, when anyone is being angry, they're fundamentally saying, no, that's not okay. All right? People shout loudest when feeling heard least. You said, I used to be rambunctious and loud and bounce off the walls. Why? I was trying to get positive attention. Exactly. You were feeling heard and you were being mistreated. You were being taught fundamentally that you're a goddamn disappointment. And so your anger inside of you brewed, but you couldn't let it out because Dad would have fucking hammered you. So you had to stuff that anger down. It wasn't safe for your anger. He would have fucking lit you up, okay? And you didn't want to be angry at Mom, even though it's like, why aren't you defending me, Mom? Come on. It's because she was your only fucking friend. Now your friend's gone, all right? But here's the thing. That anger inside of you, when finding that anger is you finding the no. No, it's not okay. No, you can't treat me that way. No, I don't want to do that. No, I don't. It's not fair what you're doing to me. No, this isn't. That's wrong. No, that hurt me. Don't do that. Inside of anger is the word no, and inside of no is the word I. No, I don't want you to do that to me. No, that's not fair to me. No, I don't want to go do that. No, you can't treat me that way. So your anger is the fucking key that opens the jail cell because it unlocks the no. You can't, Dad, treat a child to hate themselves. I'm sorry, you just fucking can't. No, it's not okay. And inside that no is me. It hurts me. You have hurt me. You are hurting me, Dad. And I am so mad. And for the first time in my life, I, at 38, am going to go back and defend that 8-year-old. And I'm going to give that little kid his voice, okay? So it's you finding your I. That's you confirming your own worth. When the person whose job it was to do it, the two people whose job it was to do it, didn't confirm your worth. Mom said you mattered, but it sure would have been, and that felt good. I'm not disputing that, but it sure would have been nice if she would have put that into motherfucking action before the pain happened. But Dad told you had no worth. Is any of this making sense?
Yeah.
What's the part that makes the most sense for you?
The anger is the key, going into it and writing it out and getting the voice out, getting it out of my head.
That's right. And out of your heart and out of your, that like you said, what was your word? That deeper.
Stuff down so far.
That's right. That deeper, manifest deeper feelings of hatred. You have to be willing to go into that. Just out of curiosity, what percent of the way you were parented by your mom did you use deliberately in the parenting of your own children?
Oh, shit.
Just spitball it.
0.
Of mom's parenting.
It all comes from my experience with my dad.
No, but I'm asking, of all that Mom did in the rearing of you, giving you baths when you were 3 and, swatting you on the butt when you took too many cookies or whatever. Of all the mom's parenting technique, what percent of mom's parenting technique do you use deliberately in the parenting of your own children?
35, 40%. 40%.
And what percent of dad's parenting technique?
60.
Did you choose that? Did you choose to rate? You can pick any.
Deliberately, no.
What percent of dad's parenting did you deliberately choose? Say, hey, this is good parenting. I'm going to use it with my kids.
Oh, probably 10 or 20.
10 or 20%. And so then just to go back, just so we're all clear. So then 10 to 20% of dads I deliberately use with my kids, and percent of moms that you deliberately used. Hey, this is good. I'm going to use it with my kids. Is it 40%? Is that, you want to stick with that? Okay. So, and yet you said, Dad, Mom was 80% a good parent, but you only used 40% of her parenting. If she was such a brilliant fucking parent, why didn't you use 80% of her fucking parenting? Why didn't you use 100%? Because you said she was 80% a good parent, yet you only used 40% of her parenting. Isn't that interesting? And you said Dad was 40% a good parent, but fuck, I only used like 10 to 20% of his parent. And in other words, he was a fucking horseshit parent. You didn't use his fucking parenting techniques because generally it sounds like they sucked. Accurate or inaccurate?
Yeah. In hindsight, looking back at it, I would say so.
Yeah, exactly. And it hurts and it's brutal to fucking think about it. It's fucking brutal and it's ugly and it hurts. But this is it, dude. This is it, Becker. This is fucking it, man. This is the healing shit. This is when I talk about the hard, ugly, brutal, scary, nasty shit. This. I have clients who are the most badass, fucking ranchers and farmers and first responders and special forces, just brutal fucking people, right? Tough motherfuckers. And they always say, Sven, this is the hardest fucking thing I've ever done in my fucking life. So you're not alone, Daddy-O. But this is the source of your healing, is looking back at it for the first time in your life with an adult's eyes and just saying, I just want to know. I just want to see the truth. I don't want to hide from the truth because I'm afraid. I'm a scared little boy. And it's okay to be scared. Nothing wrong. I get scared at times. No doubt about it. Nothing wrong with that. But for once, I'm just going to look at it as an adult. What really is the truth? I just want to see the truth. And then I'll decide on what I'm going to do later. But I want to see the truth. I want to feel the truth. I want to get it out of me. And the truth is, dude, you have fully admitted that your mom wasn't even 50% a good parent. And she was your friend and the only person that fucking mattered. You felt like you mattered, or certainly the top one, but still, all that she didn't do to protect you, at the very least. And because women had been going to women's shelters with their kids for decades prior to that. They'd been around for many decades. And your dad, 20% a good parent. And he taught you to hate yourself. It's like, you motherfucker. You motherfucker. You fucking taught me to hate myself. And I hate myself so much that it's corrupting my work. I'm hurting my wife. My fucking wife. Hurting my fucking children. What the fuck? And I'm not scolding you, buddy. This was done to a child. You want to heal yourself. I guarantee you. You go into this shit like we did today. And you stay in it. And you write those fucking letters to your old man. You fucking cocksucker. What the fuck? You couldn't fucking heal yourself? You didn't want to fucking go deep in your own shit, Dad? So you just thought you'd spit it out on me? Fuck you, old man. But honestly, Dad, I'm still so sad because I just wanted to be loved by you. Why couldn't you just love me? Would it have killed you to just come out and throw a ball with me? And rather than always critiquing me or let me swing a bat, rather than always critiquing, just saying, hey, good swing, kid. You'll get it. Just keep playing around with it.
It's interesting because that's actually the deliberate part of his parenting that I use is playing catch and like doing something with my kids.
Good. He got one thing right. God bless him.
Yeah.
And he put food on the table. Hey, God bless him. But shit, let me ask you this. If you could have grown up in a loving, poor house or an unloving like you had, but it had been a rich house, which would you choose? Poor and loving, or rich and unloving?
Easily poor and loving.
Exactly. So in other words, you giving Dad, when you say, I don't want to admit the feelings that I have for him because, hey, he took care of me and he raised me. It's like, yeah, but you would have rather fucking had the love.
Yeah.
Right. So what do you think about this idea? Final question. What do you think about this idea of going in your journaling and writing letters that you don't send? What do you think of the idea of going into the actual shit and looking at the actual shit and feeling it and flushing it out?
It's going to be fucking hard, but I feel like it's necessary.
It's absolutely necessary. And let me tell you something.
I'm actually going to go get myself a big notebook journal and start doing it.
That's all it takes, man. I just get a spiral myself. I like spiral notebooks. That's just me. Everybody's different. Or sometimes I just type it into my computer because I took a typing class in high school. Best fucking class I ever took. Anyway, the point is, yeah, but here's what happens. It is the hardest, but let me tell you, kid. Let me tell you, the deeper you go into it, the faster the healing. I'm telling you, it's just like, whoa. And some days you're going to have to take a day off or whatever, but the deeper you go, and it comes fast, and you're going to feel yourself getting lighter. If you have the balls, the brass balls to go into this and feel it and flush it, and also looking at the pain, the fears, and the bullshit beliefs you've been taught about yourself. And that's what the book is for. There's a hole in my love cup. My book, use my fucking, but you got to do those exercises and you got to do them in writing. And now you're going to read that book differently because now we've exposed the real shit. But the deeper you go into that, you're going to start to feel lighter very soon. And you're going to start to have more spontaneous energy. And here's the thing, your family's going to begin to notice. They're going to begin to fucking notice, dude. They're going to realize, wow, Dad just has calmer. Dad is lightened up. Or, honey, you're it's great. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. You're going to see the fucking results. I guarantee it. Here's the other thing I want you to do. I want you to go back, especially with regard to your 13-year-old. I want you to go back to a video I posted on, it was either December 24th or 25th of 2023.
Yeah.
And it's a repost. And it's about and the quickest way to find it is either TikTok or Instagram, because you can scroll back so much faster. Facebook is just fucking slow.
So long, yeah.
Yeah. And go back, and it's on the 7 things you can do to help your adult child heal. Now, your 13-year-old isn't an adult child, but some of the techniques in there you can start to do. I would wait to go to her with some of those things until you do more of this healing work on yourself. But kid, this is exactly, X marks the spot. The shit that you're avoiding, the hatred, the pain, the rage, the anger, all of that, and at mom. And that's going to probably be the harder one. But go to dad first, flush, not go to the person, but go inside and all the dad's flush. You fucker, you made me hate myself. Fuck you. And I've been protecting you at the expense of myself. I've been holding back the hatred towards you, but you taught me to hate myself. That's fucked up. What kind of fucking dad does it? Flush all that shit out and keep doing it. Write 20 letters. But also go in on the mom stuff. Even though scary and even though hard, does that sound doable?
Yes.
Good man. You got to do it. You got to do it.
Yep.
Becker, I want to invite you to come back just for a few minutes after the show for a bit of an overtime. Would that be all right?
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate that. To all of our listeners around the world, I think we can say a hearty thank you to Becker. Rob, any closing thoughts?
You know, Sven, your logic is stunning when you apply it to yourself. There's really very few things in life that are more difficult. And having listened to you now for almost 300 of these podcasts, I recognize the great truth of the Carl Sandburg quote, which is, life is like an onion. You peel it off one layer at a time, and sometimes you weep.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I didn't know the weep part. I like that very much. And that's it. And with regard to Becker, there's going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth and anger and rage. And it's the willingness to feel it all and bring it all up. And that's where the healing's going to come. So we thank Becker for his appearance on the show. Please stick around for the overtime after the show. To all of our listeners around the world, from the Brooklyn Bridge to all places that start with the letter B, have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by 2-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.